Let's stay with that story. Irshad Manji is a Muslim, a lesbian and the founder of the Moral Courage Project at the University of Southern California. Irshad has written 2 books about the need for liberty and love in Islam. She joins us now live from Los Angeles. Irshad, thanks so much for joining us here on the program. I mean, this is yet another period of reflection in the United States. Questions being asked about this attack. Was it another case of someone being radicalized, or was it queer-phobic attack?
You know, Yalda, first of all, I wish it was a time for reflection. Unfortunately, given the politics of the day, it's more a time of rancor. And whether, you know, the gunman was an internal homophobe, or whether he was inspired by religious motivations, at the moment we don't know. But what we do know is that, you know, he visited and frequented Pulse nightclub at least twice a month over the course of 3 months, this coming from patrons of the club itself. And so they were not surprised when they found out that it was him who stormed in and wiped out wiped out over 50 people and wounded 50 more.
Irshad, you know, just even this morning when I was in a taxi, there was a Muslim taxi driver and he said to me, you know, he wasn't a Muslim, he doesn't represent us. Why do you think every time there is an attack like this, the Muslim community feels they need to justify their position?
You know, in a sense, Muslims feel 2 things at the same time. One is resentment about having to justify to non-Muslims that this guy isn't one of us. But in their heart of hearts, I think many Muslims also recognize that we have a problem. And the problem is not simply the fanatics. All religions have their fanatics. The problem is that so-called moderate Muslims are not proactively speaking out. You know, the other day, a woman from the Council on American Islamic Relations, which is a mainstream organization in the U.S., was on television offering her condolences and expressing solidarity with the victims of the Pulse shootings. But she was never asked, in addition to condemning this, is your organization reaching out to mosques to demand that they stop preaching intolerance of gay and lesbian people? So the fact that, you know, Muslims are not held truly accountable for what is being taught within our faith, and the fact that many Muslims still feel resentful about having to justify themselves to others, makes for a pretty toxic mix of frustration, despair and defensive-ness.
You know, I've read both of your best-selling books, and there's a very strong argument about reform from within the religion. I mean, what exactly, just tell our audience, do you mean when you say reform from within? What do you want to have happen?
Very simple, Yalda. I believe that in Islam, faith can be reconciled with freedom. And though some people would laugh out loud at that suggestion, the analysis is very simple. Look, as Muslims, we are to believe in one God, not God's self-appointed ambassadors, which means that none of us, myself included, can walk around as if we have a monopoly on truth. And that in turn means that it's our spiritual duty as Muslims to contribute to societies in which we can disagree with one another in peace and with civility, because anything less means that somebody is playing God, and that is the central sin in Islam. And so the beauty of this paradox is that, you know, believing in one God obliges Muslims and others to defend human liberty.
And you're often very critical of the moderate Muslim voices. You believe that they basically come out when something like this happens, but then don't really do much more beyond that.
Precisely. It's exactly like the story that I just told you about the representative of the Council on American Islamic Relations. But there are so many other stories about so-called moderate Muslims not being proactive, instead being reactive. And the alternative to moderates then are reformists. We are the ones, and I count myself among reformists in Islam, we are the ones who are offering bold and competing reinterpretations of the Quran. It's tough, of course, to to convince elders that we need to reinterpret the words that are in the Quran. But a new generation of Muslims, I tell you, Yelda, is hungry for rethinking and for open dialogue, which is why, despite these awful headlines, I continue to do the work that I do, and I'm optimistic about the future, both of Islam and therefore of our planet.
And many people appreciate the work that you do. Irshad, thank you so much for joining us here on the program.